morning to you, our fervent viewers of the program Press Brave, this midweek edition of Wednesday, the 17th day of April 2024. You're heartily welcome on board the program for today, as we'll be back to give you what the print sector in Cameroon and around the continent are saying. Just hang on with us. Once more, you're heartily welcome back to the program. If you are joining us, the program on air is Press Brief, and we are coming to you live on High Television this Wednesday morning of the 17th of April 2024. For presentation, I am attending Larry Kevin Tabot. We start off with Luju for this first phase of the program. Luju of Haman Mana talks of indomitable Lions, Mark Breeze prospects for potential players for the national team as he embarks in a European trip. You can find more on Luju. For today's cinema, the incredible story of a visually impaired person in the cinematic industry. You can find details on him on that set paper of Haman Mana for this morning. From there, we take you to next door Cameroon Tribune. Cameroon Tribune for today talks of registration on Elecam's list. The paper reports on the news scuffle. You can find more on that set paper for today. At 52nd National Day, some 2,360 medals to be awarded to some personalities all across the National Triangle. And move on to this other story that reports on quality bonus to cocoa farmers, identification process on cause. And away from that, let's take you to Boya with Volcanic Times of Charles Mbola. Volcanic Times of today's report of yesterday reports at launch of Rich Support Cultural Development Association. Grascuda raises funds, launches CFA France 257 million community hall project for the great support people. Light Up Fako project, Dr. Simid Molua Bekem and Fako Mays unveil first consignment of 1,000 solar lamps. And in that set paper on the ear section of Volcanic Times, it says Bishop's calls on citizens to prioritize voting. You can find details on that story on page 5. We move next over to Yaoundé with Newswatch of Eugene D. Newswatch for this morning reports Archbishop Nkia, seek ye first peace and justice shall be added unto you. That was a pronouncement of the national president of the Cameroon National Episcopal Conference of Bishops in the nation after they just ended 49 bishops conclave in Voli, Yaoundé. And match fixing allegations, Samuel Etofi faces CAF investigation panel today in the capital, in the headquarters of CAF in Cairo, Egypt. We move on to this other one from Bamenda. Lawan Bako rubbishes Atanga report 60-day ultimatum to telecommunication companies. And away from that, let's take you to L'Expression for this morning. It talks of synergies of Chang following the inauguration ceremony of the new sporting of structure by the Minister of Sport and Physical Education, Nassim Smollett Kombi, in the company of the Turkish ambassador to Cameroon. We'll move on to this other story, and for my time for today talks of the third quality of cocoa. It says Mbaga Atanganang, the Minister of Trade, prescribe transparency and objectivity. You can find details on that story from the agricultural sector on page 2 to 3. And we move on to the next publication for this morning. Mitasiong of Teritiaga talks of internet disturbance. It says how to reduce the adrenaline. You can find more on that set paper for today. The digital center from the Ministry of External Relations when it comes to visa. You can find more on that set paper, as it says it's quite a transformative engagement taken by the Cameroonian government and mines extractive industry. The paper says Baturi in the northern part of the country in Dak. You can find more on that paper for today. The message of late Jawe report on the verification of goods. The paper talks of the paper report on the methods of SJS. You can find details on that said story on page 4. We move on to football. It says Pantel and Agli in the Elite One Championship of MTN in Cameroon. And we will be moving over to the next paper, Les Quotidiennes Emergence for today, insecurity. The paper report on the no-nonsense Paul Atsanganji of Ministry of Territorial Administration, who gives guidelines in order to combat insecurity in the country. The roads construction of Matua Marwa Magda Yagwa. The paper reports on the financing that is coming from the African Development Bank that have been made available. The National School of Journalism and Mass Communication, ASMAC in English and ESTIC in French, talks of the suspension of certain dozens of journalism students who were found wanting when it comes to malpractices that they were involved in. You can find details on that said story for this morning. The Guardian Post of Christian Garcis at re-enticing of reenacting of macabre crime. Arrested ENAM graduate confesses killed more grandmother murder. You can find more on that said paper of the story of the young Landrin Betek Yebe, who confesses of killing his mother and grandmother within a space of less than a year. To boost diplomacy, External Relations Ministry launches construction of digital center. Get to read details on page 5. And we move on to this one, government in search of 230 billion CFA francs to support 2.3 million vulnerable persons living in Cameroon. This follows Minister Paul Atanganji's meeting with some stakeholders in the humanitarian affair sector, and 2,330 medals to be awarded to some meritorious citizens on National Day, that is the 20th of May 2024. Eze Guruguru confers Ezine title on Nigerian Consul General for Southwest Northwest region, His Excellency Lawan Bapo. Get to read details on that story on that bottom page story for today on the Guardian Post. From the Guardian Post, we'll be moving over to This Day. This Day newspaper reports on in major move, Dangote crashes diesel price to 1,000 naira per liter from 1,200 naira, and Wike backs Damagog to retain seat as governor, scrambled for his replacement. In asset publication, Lupuri, Nigeria has lost 334 billion US dollars in oil outputs, decline from delays, split Exxon Mobil deal. And Business Times for today is reporting on defending the naira. Experts warn against ongoing depletion of foreign reserve, and Nigeria to generate 2.7 billion of US dollars as Tinubu launches single window initiative. We remain with the Nigerian tabloid this time around with Vanguard for this morning. Food inflation slowing federal government revenue raises according to Edon, and fresh headers attack 26 security personnel, mourners, others killed in Benue State of North Central Nigeria. Vice President Shetima, Governor Bako Ayo Teriba, others graces Vanguard Economic Summit. Daily Trust for this morning, Port Harcourt refinery yet to take off as deadline elapses. Dangote crashes diesel price to 1,000 naira per liter. Nigerian Tribune, that's a national daily from Nigeria. Nigerian Tribune for today. Damagog division in PDP. Reps sets tone ahead of NEC meeting. EFCC arraign Kobana chief priest over naira abuse today, and Kano Anti-Graft Commission fires fresh charges against Gamaju. And we move on to Kaduna Assembly sets up the 13-man panel to probe into Erufai's 8-year mandate as governor of Kaduna State. We move on to this other story, land dispute. Armed men attack Ekiti local government secretariat, injured workers. We come back to Cameroon with another publication for this morning. We take you now to the next paper. That is Lloyd Sahel of Gaibai Baitama for this morning. It says Adamawa region, the project of the Bini Warak Dam abandoned. You can find more on Lloyd Sahel for today. Was the paper report on a soldier who was killed by the Boko Haram insurgency in the locality of Zigi, and Mayo Sanaga division of the Far North region. The paper report on some 90 household members who are displaced as for 5 days now as a result of the Boko Haram incursion in the Far North region of the country. Let's move up to the next paper for today. That is Le Quotidien for today. Is the last paper for today. A report on the cocoa markets. It says the end of FAMLA. That's a question Le Quotidien newspaper is asking for today. With that paper, this is what put a pause on this first part of the program. But do not move a muscle. We will be here with our reviewer who is already in the studio. Once more, you are heartily welcome back to the program, and if you are joining us, you are on to the second part of the program press brief for today, reserved for our reviewer. Our reviewer for this morning is the publisher of the Volcanic Times newspaper, that the publication from Boya. I'm talking of Charles Mbola. Good morning to you, and you're welcome.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning to all televiewers of High TV.
All right, we start off with Loju for today. Loju for today says Indomitable Lions Mark Breeze prospect in Europe as he goes on a scouting tour to sort out for talent for the national team. We are talking on the national coach of the Indomitable Lions, Mark Breeze.
Yes, I think it is about time because first of all, we had that long period of wait, anticipating who the new manager would be. God so kind, the Ministry of Sports and Physical Education, through the Presidency of the Republic, took the bull by its horns and have delivered what we expected in terms of having a manager. Right now, he had to get to work. He began by the tour of facility, visiting all the stadiums in the country, and with the challenges that we have beginning next month, it is time to talk to a few players who might have been left out or who might have rejected the call based on the toxic atmosphere that used to reign within the den of the national team. So it's about time he talks to some of these key players and see how he's going to bring them back and make sure that they participate interestingly and worthy to the qualification of Cameroon, because we have a twin qualifier game coming up in the next month.
Definitely. Away from that paper of Loju, let's make a stop over to Boya with Volcanic Times for this morning. Volcanic Times says at launch of Grace Support Cultural and Development Association, Grace Kuda raises funds, launches the sum of CFA 257 million community hall project.
Yes, Great Support is one of the most cosmopolitan communities we have in Fako, with an estimated population of about 60,000. It tells you the diversity that exists in Great Support, where virtually every tribe that make the fabric of Cameroon resides in Great Support, and probably we have a foreign community, especially the Nigerian community, who are in great number here in Great Support. And that's why, for some reason, the president of Grace Kuda, Dr. Absalom Wolua Monono, who happens to be the SG of Ofaro division in the Far North, and his brothers and sisters of the community decided to come together to ensure that something is done in terms of the development and facelift of the community. They are building a multi-purpose complex which will have so many facilities, and I'm sure those who read on that story, which is lodged in page 6 and 7,
Yeah.
will definitely have an insight on the kind of facilities that multipurpose hall is going to have. It's going to have ceremonial halls, it's going to have halls for mini conferences, it's going to have a dispensary. The facility is also going to have a pharmacy, a community pharmacy. And so these are just a few. It's going to have a women empowerment center, especially for the girls, and many other things that you may think of, especially office space for maybe lawyers, insurances, and so on and so forth. So this initiative, worth 257 million francs, is what was conceived about 2 years ago, but it took time. Planning took time for it to occur, and so far the fundraiser was a very, very huge success, because the elites, non-elites, residents who came in from different parts of the country made sure that the event was a success, especially the presence of the mayor for Boya, above all the senior divisional officer for FACO, Mr. Angebe Viang-Mekala, who took part in the ceremony as the chair. And the chief launcher for that, mind you, was the CEO of Dash Holdings, Boni Dashako, who made a huge donation, a massive donation, because he comes from Great Support. He's born and bred in Great Support. So you can see that so many people got involved to make sure that this process is a success. In the days ahead, from what I saw, in the days ahead, the construction works are going to begin.
Okay, and we are wishing them well. And we move on to the bottom page story on that set, Volcanic Times, on page 3. Yeah, that is Lights of FACO project. Dr. Molua Mays unveiled consignment of 1,000 solar lamps for the Lights of FACO project that he initiated some few years ago.
Yes, this is 1 year exactly that the Light of FACO project was initiated. And this is because, according to the division bearer, Dr. Mola Smith Becker, the FACO was in darkness. FACO is still in darkness, and in its only two way, decided to come up with the initiative where solar lamps are brought in at very, very cheap rates. And working with direct partners from abroad, from out of the country, to ensure that Cameroonians in this particular FACO can benefit from lighting system, especially when we know that power cut is constant. And so most especially the villagers of the respective villages that make up FACO are benefiting from this. That's why even on the front page image, you see that we have a few chiefs who were present during the unveiling of the 1,000 lamp consignment. So right now, I think distribution time has arrived, and communities are going to start, having their streets being lit for the most part, and then the project continues,
Okay, and we move over to this other story from the set paper for today. We are talking on Volcanic Times, and I think this other story from Volcanic Times, the one on the bishops, where this Bishop Andrew Kia, who happens to be the national president of the National Episcopal Conference for Cameroon, calls on Cameroonians to prioritize voting as general elections will be coming up in 2025.
Yes, the narrative is changing. I think for some time now, in different elections in the past, we've had opposition parties discouraging, I must say, was a very, very negative strategy on their part, discouraging potential voters, saying everything is rigged. Everything is not rigged. To say everything is rigged is a farce. And so at some point it happened to affect the opposition parties in particular negatively. But mind you, those who also call for voting are calling on, they're not leaving out the ruling militants of the ruling party to also be part of the voting. So it's not about just changing. It's a give and take issue. It's either you change the status quo or the status quo remains. And so right now the bishops have been involved through their 49th Episcopal Conference. It's left to be seen how the massive or the strong media campaign which is ongoing takes an effect on the ground, because we still see that it is timid. People are not yet have not yet bought in the idea to its fullest, that we expect that every Cameroonian is going to get involved. Every Cameroonian of voting age should get involved and be part of either maintaining the status quo or changing the narrative for the future of the country.
Okay, we move up north of the country this time around from Boya. We are taking you up north of Cameroon with Lloyd Isahel of Gibe by time I report on Adamawa region, the project for the construction of the Benin Warak Dam that have been abandoned by the government in place. So what do you make of this abandonment abandonment of this set beneath Warak Dam by the Cameroonian.
Yeah, this is it is worrying. It is really really worrying, and I don't know for what duration it has been abandoned. But to tell you that such a project would help upgrade the living standard of the people in that part of the country is not an overstatement. It is just appropriate to say that abandoning such a project is costing the Northeasts or people of that part of the country a whole lot. And it is about time. We don't want to hear campaign speeches, because next year is definitely the year for the presidential elections. It will be unfair to start hearing campaign speeches right now talking about Direct Dam and how they're going to work on it. It is time for the government in place, to the regime in place, to ensure that they execute without necessarily putting up this as a campaign strategy for the next elections. Because yes, the CPDM might not have failed in everything, but they've also had failures, and this is why I want to correct the dynamics. I believe that even the CPGM big weeks will want to see that some of these projects are executed. Gibai Gaitama is, he is from that part of the country, and the interest of that country also is of priority to him. So right now we are hopeful that the government will do the needful, and it may have an impact in the upcoming elections, no doubt, but let them do the job.
Okay, we remain with that paper, Lloyd Sahel, this time around in the locality of Waza, precisely in the community of Zigi, where a Cameroonian soldier was gruesomely killed by the Boko Haram insurgency. Since 2014 and right up to 2024, now it's a bulk of years but the Boko Haram insurgency still keeps on with the ugly heads. What do you make of this killing of this soldier by the insurgency?
Yeah, it is unfortunate. It is really really unfortunate. I think yes, it's a worthy campaign to fight against terrorism. But you want to ask yourself, what has been the involvement of the local population? Have they been cooperative enough? Are they actually involved in the insurgencies that usually occur in this part of the country? Because you ask yourself, you try to, make a comparison with what obtains in the southwest and northwest regions, where you've had several individuals who might not physically be acting on the field, but have been providing intelligence to some of the incursions or the insurgents that usually hit and run in the different parts of the region. So it is for community to remain focused and give information as the need may arise to the authorities. This is one more soldier gone down, and we feel very sorry for the family.
Sad indeed. And let's move down south to Douala with Mutation of Thierry Diaga for today report on it is the remote of adrenaline internet services at times, or internet connectivity at times makes one's nerve to actually be quite worrisome, according to that paper. What do you make of this psychological effect from the internet?
Yeah, it is true because as from the 30th of this month of April, we are anticipating that the service provider, the Starlink, will be interrupted in Cameroon and different African countries. It is a problem. We are looking at a way to solve this issue with a plan B. And what does Cameroon stand to lose? It's going to be huge economically. It's going to be huge in different dimensions you might not imagine right now. So hopefully the Telecommunications Regulatory Board and the Ministry of Communication will want to see exactly how to solve this problem, without which it's going to affect financial transactions. It's going to affect maybe should I say workshops. It's going to affect everything that can be of positive attribute to the country. It might also help to curb in terms of what we call fraudulent financial transactions. It's going to definitely help. It's going to perturb some of these guys we call scammers, who are out there to extort money from people who are, hard earners of their own currency. So it has a double facet right now, but the most part is going to be that Cameroonians are going to suffer the adverse effect of the shutdown of Starlink in the country.
Okay, and we take you to the launching of the digital center from the Ministry of External Relations that was done yesterday by the minister himself, Lejeune Belambela, in the company of the minister delegates at the Ministry of External Relations in charge of cooperation with the Commonwealth of Felix Bayou. That is the e-visa center in the nation yesterday. Bottom page story, page 7 on Mutation.
Yes, it is necessary. You know, we need to have digital centers all over the country, and Cameroon is here to cover 50% of this initiative, which will help a lot in boosting the country. It will help a lot in should I say upgrading the level of security that each region may have to to deal with. And this is exactly why Douala had its first in some few months ago,
Yeah.
when the Prime Minister was there, and the Secretary General of the Presidency, the Director of National Security was there to inaugurate. I think it is an initiative that every developing country, every emerging country should have. So we are glad that Yaoundé has finally had its own. It's not the first, but they are having it at last. You know, Douala was the first to have it, so
Yeah.
Yaoundé is having it now. It makes a whole lot of sense.
Okay. Away from that, let's move on to the English language newspaper Newswatch of Eugene Z. It says, Archbishop Nkea, seek ye first peace and justice shall be added unto you. The wise gentleman from the southwest.
Absolutely, absolutely. You see, first of all, if we look at the context in which we find ourselves in this country, many persons do not think that peace is necessary. There are those who still believe that violence is the only way forward. No, but you can't achieve justice without necessarily having peace with yourself and making peace around with the other people. You know, justice sometimes it comes naturally, but peace is something you work for. You must work for peace, and then justice is going to come. I take an example of the ongoing conflict. I keep referring to the ongoing socio-political impasse we have in the northwest and southwest, where there is that olive tree which has been extended by the President of the Republic, who tells his children, as father of the nation, that you have to leave the bushes, come back, and then we'll find a way forward. Because leaving the bushes is the first step to knowing that peace must exist. And so if you don't seek for peace, you can't have justice. Yes.
Okay, we move on to this saga regarding Samuel Eto'o. It says match fixing allegations. Samuel Eto'o faces CAF investigation panel today in Cairo.
This is exactly what we talked about between 2021 and 2022. Especially, I spoke about this at length because as a football writer and as a football journalist, I have attended different competitions. I have seen different level of championships in the country, football in particular. And when things began going wrong, we called on the attention of the football authorities.
Yeah.
We spoke about the regional league, for instance, where clubs have been sanctioned indiscriminately for virtually nothing done. Imagine clubs apply for licenses and the league resumes. The clubs do not receive their licenses, whereas the federation is in charge of giving those licenses. The reason why these clubs do not receive the licenses is simple, because their owners or their presidents do not adhere to the modus operandi of complete submission to the FA's president, and so their sanctions begin from the regional level. That's already a problem. Whereas we know that amateur football is what drives football at all levels in the country. This is the breeding ground for talents that can one day find themselves at the level of the national team. So if you start hammering on them negatively with relatively not justifiable reasons, then you have a problem. There is issues of match fixing. About Victoria United, there are issues of violation of the text at all levels, in be it at amateur level, be at the Elite 2, be it at the Elite 1, at all levels. There are litigations against the federation. And who incarnates the federation? It is Samuel Eto'o, who came in and many thought he was the Messiah. Unfortunately, someone like me had a reservation, because as a player, he was a magnificent guy. He was an extraterrestrial, as we say it on the football pitch.
Yeah.
But there are things that we saw and spoke about which are beginning to appear massively and negatively against his image right now. That's why today, as we speak, he is expected to be at the Cairo head office of CAF with the president of Victoria United, Valentine Quine. for match fixing allegations and other things. Mind you, those who have contributed to all of this do not come only from the Southwest region. Yes, we have somebody like Njela Kwan Jr. who complained long time ago. We have other clubs that have complained. Even Gibai Gaitama, who was a close ally to Etofis, at some point had to back out because I don't know, if you look at it carefully, every day you have persons falling out falling out with Samuel Eto'o based on his management skills, which leaves a lot to be desired for anything good. You can see the tussle on how he hired Rigobert Song. You can see now that the same method has been used against him. Because at the end of the day, it is the state that pays the coaches, the technical staff, and not the federation. The federation does not have such money. You can see that the account of the federation is in red. There's no justification that has been given, unlike previous presidents of the FA who hold regular press conferences, talk about the budget, hold regular executive meetings, talk about the budget, who hold regular meetings to talk about aspects that involve the evolution of football in the country. We've not had that since 2021. This is the third year, and elections at the federation will take place next year. So it's really, really tough for Samuel Eto'o, who is facing litigations not only nationally but internationally.
But CAF is an African organization, and taking into the cognizance in which Africans they hold towards humanity, especially for someone who is mourning like Samuel Eto'o, who just buried his father over the weekend, shouldn't the administration of Patrice Motsepe, or shouldn't they hold? Would it be proper if they hold their horses instead of continue with this set of purported investigation?
No, let me ask you. No.
It ought to have been proper if they give the gentleman at least a month or two.
I want to remind you that it is in the course of mourning that Samuel Eto'o and his executive committee sat in Yaoundé, held a meeting, and gave the president of the federation 72 hours to appoint a coach.
Which he never did.
Yeah, you ask yourself, why hasn't he done it? It's not because he's mourning. The 72 hours was supposed to be respected. He had time to respond to the minister's call in his own way, saying that he was bereaved. And he has responded, he has taken certain decisions, even in the course of mourning. I want to say that he has buried his father. And so, few days after burying his father, this is a public office. Okay. It is not his private industry.
Even in public offices, they do give
absolutely
time for money.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you something. He even tried using his father's funeral to attract sympathy against all. Let me tell you something.
The guy was in tears.
Eto'o has stepped on so many toes. If you ask me, he has stepped on so many toes, and now it is only normal for these institutions not to look at his personal life. What they are focusing on is what will better the football and the African continent, what will take off corruption from football on the African continent. He thinks he's already sued CAF at the level of FIFA, saying that CAF are preparing a smear campaign. No, CAF are preparing no smear campaign. Cameroonians took time to write to CAF to complain, and CAF said they will reply when they've had their own findings done. They have replied and convocated Samuel Eto'o to hear his own side of the story. It is only after this that they are going to do verification, and the final verdict will be lodged. But people should understand that Samuel Eto'o is risking a 4 to 10 year ban on football, and this may dent his image if subsequently he anticipates becoming the president of CAF, which I doubt, going by all the litigations, the voice notes that have occurred in the country. We all know, but we are not lawyers. We are not lawyers.
Things like this can be manipulated.
Yes, of course, but then there are also voice recognition techniques and instruments for voice recognitions that can do their job. Okay. So let's just stay watchful, and hopefully he can come out of this flying without perching.
All right, we move away from football still with News Watch, but we focus on something else. No live broadcast of Martinez Zogo murder trial. Military court rules. This was during on the Monday's court hearing that took place at the military tribunal in Yaoundé, where they say there will be no live broadcast, as many Cameroonians are proposing for the military court to transmit live signals on the court hearing of Jean-Pierre Amogu Belinga, Maxime Eko, Colonel Danway, and Bruno Bijan, who are accused of masterminding the kidnapping, torture, and subsequent gruesome killing of Martinez Zogo.
You know, so far there has been an issue in terms of public opinion, whereby the social media court has already sentenced several persons. And that's where I have a problem, because, you know, you have to allow the litigations to prosper normally in the courts. And to this point, if these persons are still being held behind bars, it's because there is a level of seriousness in what is being done. And to me, I don't subscribe to the quest for a televised hearing here and there, whereby we know that we have difficult times ahead in this country, and it's not necessary to give room for public debates on what they do not master. Cameroonians can cry all they wish, but the authorities are doing the rightful thing. It is not supposed to be a public scrutiny. It's supposed to be a scrutiny in the courts of law, and not steer hate that may affect the respective families of these people who definitely deserve their sense of privacy.
Okay. Away from that, I think we'll be moving over to something else. This time around, we'll make a stop over with the this Nigerian tabloid. First news talks of Naira abuse. Another celebrity, Cubana chief priest, risks jail to be arraigned today. This is a gentleman who is notorious for flaunting the Naira note in lavish party. This one comes after another cross-dresser or transgender, as many call him, Bobrisky, has been slammed 6-month jail term by by the Abuja High Court. This time around, we are having Cubana chief priest, who is quite a social light in Nigeria and across Africa.
Yeah, it's terrible. I am not comfortable with people who try to claim they are transgenders, yet they leave their natural biological parts on them. You know, Bobrisky, when I read it on Twitter, I laughed. I said, but this guy was claiming to be a woman. And when he when he was picked up and being jailed, he was canned like every normal prisoner. Yeah. And according to reports trickling out from the penitentiary institution, is that Bobrisky is a man with all his genitals intact. Nothing has changed. It's a disgrace. How do you manipulate yourself to that extent? You lie to yourself to the extent of believing. I think it should serve as a lesson to many. I don't know those in Cameroon who believe in this notion, but they should be careful, because first of all, in Cameroon, you are inviting the wrath of God on you. Secondly, the wrath of the administration. The Constitution of Cameroon does not tolerate this kind of behavior. So hopefully our youths in particular are going to learn, no matter how strong the bidding power that comes with so much finances is towards them. So they should be very careful on what they engage themselves into.
Okay, we talk sports, and that is a domain that you master so well with Sporting Sun. Sporting Sun for today says the Nigerian Football Federation, NFF, shortlists Amunike for the top job of the head coach of Nigeria after Pizarro, the Portuguese contract came to an end. So this is a former Super Eagles player,
Emmanuel Amunike.
Of course, he was quite notorious of his majestic move on the pitch and off the pitch. So if what are you seeing a scenario where Emmanuel Amunike can be the head coach of the Super Eagles, and could this go a long way to mark or mar the Super Eagles?
You see, the problem with sub-Saharan Africa is that, for the most part, when we appoint our nationals as coaches, it is very, very easy to have influence peddling. Okay. Especially when we have the presidents of these federations who are also nationals of our respective sub-Saharan African countries. See, for instance, the case we had in Cameroon, which is very fresh in our memory. Those who thought that there was no influence peddling from Samuel Etofis on what Song did really did not see what was happening. Today, videos have come out to confirm what obtained in Qatar. Videos have come out to confirm what obtained in the Ivory Coast. And we are beginning to see that though Song was not the favorite to pick up the job because of his previous record prior to being appointed the national team head coach, he was still not allowed the free hand to function freely. And so there was that potential to fail.
Yeah.
There was always that potential to fail. You cannot tell me that because we beat Brazil we have done anything. Where did it take us to? Nothing. It took us nowhere.
At least we had a 3 points.
Nah,
compared to
my brother, we still
to South Africa.
No, we were still eliminated in a disgraceful manner. Yes, we in the first round. And the worst still is what happened in the Africa Cup of Nations, where it was very glaring that Cameroon was a very weakened side with players who do not deserve call-ups. I mean, how do you select players and then you have a few on the bench whom you do not believe in, whom you do not believe can come into the pitch and do something that would be up to the standard of the national team? I don't want to call names of players because I don't want to mar the images of some of these players. They have their careers ahead of them, but some of them, if not all, do not deserve a call-up in the national team. Right now, we are realizing that players like Jérôme Mongene, who withdrew from the national team, can come. We are realizing that the likes of Ekiteki, who wanted to play for France but is now open to coming to Cameroon, they are still there. We have the other guy, the guy who wears the 9 shirt, whose name I just keep my mind, for Olympique of Marseille, who actually turned down the call-up for the national team during the AFCON. This is yes. It tells you that Cameroonians are not stupid, and our players too are not stupid. It is time for us to have somebody who can work without influence. And from my observation, the ministry has brought in somebody who can work with very minimal influence on what he does as a coach.
But looking at his track record, it doesn't sound that rosy.
No, I don't think. Apart of maybe the likes of Jean-Paul Akono, I don't think there is any Cameroonian coach whose palmarès matches Marc Brice's career as a coach in Belgium. He has been a coach in the top flight of Belgium for several years. He's won trophies, even though not those glowing trophies. He's been there. He has helped to nurture players. I mean, for in 61 years of age here on earth, he has done a lot as a coach. When you look at his track record, it is not something blooming. I don't know what Hugo Broos was when we brought him, but these are guys who come, and then you realize that what Cameroonians need at the level of the national team is discipline. And if he can instill discipline, then we are sure to have the result, because discipline starts by selecting the players that are better to represent the national team.
Okay, we remain with sports. This time around with L'Expression. L'Expression newspaper for today says Synergés of Chang. It talks of the inauguration ceremony of Synergés that took place yesterday in Chang by the Minister of Sports and Physical Education, Professor Narcisse Moulay Kombi, in the company of the Turkish ambassador to Cameroon. That is a Turkish project that was fully funded by the Erdogan government with headquarters in Istanbul. Istanbul. So what do you make of Synergés of Chang that has been the sporting structure?
That's a physical education institution where instructors are trained and then later deployed to the field, especially in our respective schools. It was necessary for the instructors who are under training to acquaint themselves with some of these facilities that they are going to meet once they leave or graduate from these respective institutions. Yes, they have received 2 equipped basketball and handball courts and 2 gymnasiums where they can work on karate and judoka, different indoor disciplines. It is a magnificent gesture from the Erdogan government, who having a great tie with President Biya's government in place.
Okay, we move on to the next paper, Quotidienne Emergence, for this morning in insecurity. The paper reports on the outing of Paul Atanga in order to arrest the situation of insecurity that is reigning in the nation Cameroon. get that story completely on page 3. Your reaction to that?
Very, 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 very necessary. Very, very necessary, because even here where we find ourselves in Fako, we've had scenarios of kidnap and demand for ransom, which people say they have been asked to send money to different numbers with names that are strange. Sometimes the receiver of the ransom does not even bear the name that is found on the mobile money. And then you discover that, I mean, when you verify from the mobile telephone companies, somebody is kidnapped in Boya, for instance, and then the ransom receiver is in Yaoundé. It tells you the network that occurs in times like this. So it was very, very necessary for the Antique, which is in charge of monitoring the mobile telephone companies and their mobile money transactions, to make sure that all numbers are identified. And if I were the state, though these amounts have been blocked, I will withdraw this money and put into the state treasury to serve as a lesson to all these fake guys who go about extorting money from people. Yes, criminals who go about extorting money from people and even kill when they don't receive money.
You can imagine.
Yes.
All right, to move on to the suspension of the second student from the National School of Journalism and Mass Communication, ESIC, in Yaoundé, after investigation proved that they were actually they were practicing certain ills that weren't one of the core values of that prestigious educational facility in Yaoundé, headed by former journalist Francois Marc Mojom.
Yes, I think it was a very, very harsh lesson. You know, there are year 2 students who have been banned from attending lectures. I mean, the entire year 2 group of students have been banned at the stick, because it seems like the administration took time to arrive at this decision. And even journalists who are on practice right now have said for the most part that it was a necessary step, because for you witness this and particular students are sanctioned, yet the practice continues. Right now they have been asked to make undertakings to ensure that the practice, which we are so ashamed to even mention here on air, should stop. But we can think of what obtains is either homosexuality, lesbianism, or cultism. You can name them. These things happen in our higher institutions of learning, and so it is very natural that the Professor Francois Marc Mojom takes this step, and he needs to stay firm on it. Else, it will only go further to deteriorate the ESTIC campus.
Okay, we take you to the National Bilingual Daily Cameroon Tribune now. It talks of registration on Elecam's list, the paper report of the news scuffle that is happening all across the nation. Some political parties and some non-political parties alike, not forgetting persons of goodwill, are encouraging Cameroonians to make sure they go to they get their names registered on the elections register, as 2025 is general elections.
Yeah, what parties may not understand, I mean every political party, including the ruling party, is that it does not suffice to bring people or to carry Elecam teams to particular points where registration might take place. It is also in terms you need to follow up these individuals to make sure they get the voters card and they remain militants of your party. I think this is what 95% of political parties in the country have been unable to do, and they accuse Elecam for it. No, you don't need to accuse Elecam. Elecam is there to accompany you, to have potential militants register for you, and the rest of the follow up is all your cup of tea. If you do not do it, I'm afraid with my smile, what obtained in 2017 might repeat itself.
Okay. The Guardian Post now, the paper of Christian Gar, says at reenacting of macabre crime, arrested Enam graduate confesses killed grandmother murder, says he committed act under influence of evil spirits. What do you make of the take on the young man Landrin Yebe Betek, who made this pronouncement as he acted what he did to his late mother, the journalist, of course, who was a communication officer in the Central African Forestry Commission, is it CONAMAC, something like that?
Yeah, that's a useless excuse. You know, we keep saying that our youths are under the influence of alcohol, or better still, hard drugs, because I know alcohol might influence you, but there is a limitation to what alcohol can push you to. But when you are on hard drugs like Caillou, cocaine, you name the rest.
This is evil spirit.
No, there is nothing like evil spirit on this issue. The evil spirit there.
But we know sex do exist.
Yes,
and
but
especially for prestigious institutions like ENAM.
Yeah, but you cannot accuse ENAM on this. He might be a graduate or a student of ENAM, but it doesn't mean ENAM pushed him to do this. How many times do you hear ENAM students killing each other or going after people to kill them?
But we know of certain funny organization or brotherhoods that goes around the corner.
Yes, but you can. Do you accuse the institution for that? No, you can't. You can't accuse. It's not because I don't want us to put the name of ENAM in front, because Cameroonians are typical in demonizing institutions. We cannot demonize ENAM because ENAM is there to train people with integrity. Right now, however you want to live your life out of your student career is entirely up to you. And this guy must go down for it. You cannot kill your grandmother, and a few weeks or a few months later you kill your own mother in the same gruesome manner. It speaks volumes of the kind of friends you keep. It speaks volumes of your personal psyche. And this is where our social services really need to come in and find out, experiment on this guy, research on this guy, and so you can know how to solve subsequent problems if they're about to happen.
Okay, let's look at the scenario. The mother was aware that this guy killed the mother, and the siblings of the mom wanted to take this guy to jail. The mother did her gimmicks, and the case was thwarted according to family
reports,
reports that we are getting from Yaoundé. And now they said Snake that she has been pampering comes after her.
Yes, it's so like it is like the acts of Ambazonian terrorists. A good portion of English-speaking Cameroonians pampered these guys, and they've become at the start of the crisis, and they've become monsters. It is relatively the same thing which has happened with this lady whose son, took her own life because of and dismembered her because she scolded at him. The guy had sold virtually every furniture in the house, and that is what raised the mother's attention, and she scolded at him like every mother would do, like every parent would do. And so he decided that the only way to get rid of or to stop the noise or whatever he qualified it to be was to kill the mother. Unfortunately for him, he might never come out of jail. Never.
All right, and we pray the justice system play her role towards that gruesome case. And we move on to something else. National Day celebrations. 2,360 medals are up for grab to be awarded to some meritorious citizens of Cameroon for National Day celebrations the 20th of May.
Yes.
This was after the meeting of the head of the commission, Philemon Yang, who disclosed the set numbers of medals that will be distributed to some Cameroonians, and perhaps you might just be one of them.
I am hopeful. I'm really hopeful because I believe I've been working in this country, though not a civil servant.
Private sector.
In the private sector, I have remained civil, and I have done my own little bit of contributions. Where if God decides to take me now, there are things my friends like you. Of the fourth estate will talk about me, especially the positive ones. It may not be all rosy. Yes, it may not be all rosy, but I think that it is necessary what Philemon Yang and his entourage are about to do. I think it is very, very necessary because Cameroon, we have people who work and they sweat out themselves on a regular basis and go unnoticed. I just hope that this one will be a case where meritorious people will receive the medals.
Okay, we move on to La Voix du Consommateur. Is the last newspaper on the newsstands for today. La Voix du Consommateur reports on the reduction of prices of rice. It says the Minister of Trade, Lung Magabaraga Tanganang, says the Minister for Yaoundé and Douala. So what do you make of?
Yes, unfortunately, I agree.
He's just focusing
on the major cities. I agree.
So you say he's the Minister for Yaoundé and Douala, and the rest of the country they can perish.
Yeah, but what happens in the southwest, where you've never seen agents of the Ministry of Commerce on the field, to regulate these prices on a daily basis? Even when we have a one-stop shop that operates at Bongo Square, prices there are higher than what we even buy in the local market. So it's a problem. We are talking about this. For instance, the effect or the downing of the price on rice has not really been felt, because it shows that from the suppliers, the prices are still very high, and that's why the people who sell rices in our neighborhoods, in our markets, still haven't found any reason to bring down their costs. And so it's a very, very big issue. I think at every regional level, this is supposed to take effect, where agents are supposed to go down to the field and ensure that it happens. If this job is beyond the Minister of Commerce, who is good at making communiques, then he should step down.
All right. So, and let's focus on the caption that he's just the Minister of Yaoundé and Douala.
Yes, that's why I said the campaign on the field must extend to all the regions. I think the Ministry of Commerce has staffs who can work. If they don't have this staff, what they can do is hire staffs on contract basis and see that these things are effected. That's how it is done in every other country. You don't stay back and depend only on the staffs at the ministry. You might not have enough manpower. So bringing on board even the local man who feels the pinch of buying at high cost, and you'll see the changes.
All right. So with that story of La Voix du Consommateur, this is for the curtains of today's edition of Press Brief. It was a wonderful ride with you and our gentleman, our reviewer for today, who is the publisher of Volcanic Times, a paper from Buea. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for the opportunity which you oftentimes give me, yeah. And I feel enlightened. I feel elated to always come around, and I hope that subsequently will create another avenue, another opportunity to talk on things affecting the country.
Definitely. And we are looking forward towards your next publication of the paper, Volcanic Times.
In the fourth night, you're going to have another interesting edition of Volcanic Times. Volcanic Times, which turned 1 year on the 12th